In this video, we're going to explain the science behind why red can be so good this time of year, a major mistake anglers make when imitating crawfish right now, how cold water can impact the jig, and what makes these so much different than these. While February bass fishing can vary greatly from one part of the continent to the other, the lipless crankbait can really get the job done, and then red can really do well in the right conditions, and here's why. As these little crustaceans, crawdads, crayfish, whatever you want to call them, are emerging from that cooler water down in those crevices and the rocks or even those mud holes, as they're coming up and a little bit more active as that water pushes towards that 50-degree mark, they're thinking about some springtime love. That's right, mating season is coming up. The males will get up on top of the rocks. They are more exposed than ever before, and they are easy pickings for the bass. But here's the mistake that often we make as anglers when we think of this breeding season for crayfish. We automatically think the reds and the bright oranges, right? Well, during the actual breeding season, when they're up on top of the rocks, they are still those olive greens, those browns, those darker, more muted colors. It's not until they molt after the season is over that they are your bright reds and oranges that are so easy for bass to see. But right after the breeding season, the females disappear down into those crevices very quickly, and the males follow pretty fast as well. So the amount of time, that length of time where they are these bright colors and up on top of the rocks is very, very small. When they're on top, think those darker muted colors. Now these reds and oranges do very well because with the bass's dichromatic vision, red is one of the colors that they can really distinguish, your reds and your greens, not so much your blues and those middle colors like humans can. And they can really see these colors from a long distance. So when we're using our lipless crankbaits out there, make sure you've got both. Make sure that you've got some of those traditional crawdad type colors and those reds and oranges, and be mixing them up as you're investigating what's going to get the better bite on that particular day. Now, as far as the retrieve on these lipless crankbaits, I'm a huge fan this time of year of just these small hops, these small little pops. Think about a crawdad when it feels threatened and it scurries away really quickly. I'm gonna try to fish these in and around hard bottom composition, rocks, gravel, pea gravel, this type of stuff, and I'm thinking about these crawdads as I am fishing them. So that is why they can be so good this time of year. Next, I'm going to be fishing jigs for a lot of the same reasons, but if I can find them, I want a jig that has a skirt that has some living rubber in it, or maybe an entire living rubber jig skirt. As a matter of fact, just last week I did a video on this topic. The reason being, in this cooler water, that colder water, these living rubber skirts really stand up out and away from the head of the jig, the hook of the jig, and it just takes the smallest vibrations, the smallest stitching action from us as an angler to really make it look alive, like something is moving around down there on the bottom. Now, like I said, it's hard to find them. Most all the skirts are silicone out there in the marketplace today, but if you can pick up a few living rubber jigs this time of year, I definitely recommend doing so. Now, what about crankbaits in the early spring, this late winter period? Well, I'm a huge fan of flat-sided or really, really wide wobble. I like to be at either end of the spectrum. Your flat-sided crankbaits have a very tight wiggling action, not as pronounced of a vibration signature as a lot of the traditional deep divers that we use in those warmer months, that middle time of the year. But with that said, there are times, and I've really run across this in the Ozark Lakes where these are really popular, a very wide wobble crankbait digging around in the shallows, like your wiggle warts, can be the ticket. There's been days when I've been fishing down in the Ozarks and that tighter wiggle was doing okay, but as soon as I put in that really wide aggressive wobble and crawl it slowly through the rocks, man, that was the ticket. So as an angler, as far as crankbaits, think either end of the spectrum as far as that wobble goes, and you've got to experiment when you get out there on the water which one are the bass responding to, but have both ready. And hey, if you love bass behavior, the topic, and bass behavior videos, and you like to support the channel, I've got a new project I'm working on coming out the first part of March. I'm going to have a bass behavior bundle that is available and ready. If you're interested, go ahead and fill out that link down below, and it'll get you on the waiting list so you can be one of the first to have access to it. And hey, if you want to check out that video that goes into more detail about that living rubber jig skirt compared to silicone, go ahead and check this one out right here. And make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.